Greetings. You are now tuned into the HittMobb podcast series, where we discuss the art, business, legacies, and lifestyles of music production with your hosts, Daven Vanderpool, known as PlaDD, and Paul Hendricks, known as Baby Paul. Let's get to it.
What's going on, world? It's your boy, Baby Paul, a.k.a. BpZy.
And it's Daven Prestige Vanderpool.
And you're now tuned into the HittMobb podcast. What's good, family?
Hey, what's good, everyone?
Man, yo, look, man, I'm just excited to be here, man. Had a great time with the pilot episode with the homie J Hatch at Created Space Events. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's good with you, brother?
I'm good, and I'm here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a blessing to be here. So listen, man,
Yes.
even though I've known you for years, we go back to the 90s, man. I meant to ask you this question, man, like, because we go back to when we first met, when we was digging in, you know, in the crates with the records in the record stores in Brooklyn, right?
Yes.
But there's still things I never really knew about you, like from the beginning. I'm talking about the early beginnings, the beginnings of Prestige, before Bad Boy, before we linked up in the studio and all of
Yes.
that. You know what I mean? Like, tell me a little bit about the early beginnings, your influences when you first started getting into music.
You know, as far back as I can remember, I'm born in New Jersey,
Oh, really?
Jersey City.
I thought you was born in Brooklyn.
Nah, Jersey City, bro.
Wow.
And,
Well, I never knew that. Okay.
my family, you know, as a little kid, I can remember the first record I ever saw was James Brown. Say It Loud.
And
I can remember the label, the Black King record.
Right. King Records.
As a kid, I remember this
Right.
distinctively.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember playing it, and I just remember I just liked the beat, the way it moved me, the way it felt.
Now, when you say the way the beat, you talking about the drum break when it goes bah, with
Yeah.
the beginning part,
Yeah, the
Okay.
beginning part.
and the horns.
Yeah, the whole the whole vibe.
Right,
I was just
right.
soak it in. You know, it felt good, it felt right, and I can remember that as a kid.
Fire. That's fire.
And what was some of the records that you grew up with?
It's funny. I want to stay on the subject and say it loud because a lot of people who know my productions when I started out with the Beatminerz, shout out to you, Mr. Ward, you know, my history and all of that, Duck Down Boot Camp. I produced this record, rest in peace, Sean Price, Helter Skelter, The Fleur, The Fly, Skoshka, right?
All right, yeah.
The drum break from Say It Loud is where I got the snare for the drum beat. And I
Oh,
did that on the
yes.
SP1200. We're going to get into all that later as far as the
Exactly.
technology stuff, but
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's funny you brought up Say It Loud as one of your first musical inspirations, you know what I mean? I was just
Yes.
curious because, like, okay, so was digging the foundation of your inspiration to create music, or did you take any instruments when you was a kid in school, anything like that?
No, but before then, I started to really fall in love with music. I was brought up. Some of the other records that I was exposed to was Calypso, The Mighty Sparrow, French music, Compas, Shaska, and it was soul, funk, R&B, along with the Calypso, a little bit of reggae, a little mix of all of these things.
See, that sounds interesting. Just the description of the types of music you grew up listening to. Where are you from? Like originally, like your family foundation. You say you was born in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but where's your family from?
Oh, my family is from, my mother's from Curacao.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Netherlands Antilles, and my
Wow.
father's from St. Martin.
Wow.
So,
That's an interesting combination.
yes, you know, Caribbean.
Yeah.
Caribbean's in full effect here.
Yes, sir. I mean, I could say the same thing. I was born in Harlem, but my mother came in from Jamaica, you know what I'm saying, by way of
Yeah.
Cuba, like literally migrated into the country, you know. So I'm a first generation American in my family's generational history, you know what I mean?
Oh, as you put it like that, same here.
Wow.
Same here.
Wow. That explains not only our creative influences, but the morals and principles we grew up on as individuals that led into how we move as musicians today.
Of course.
You know what I mean? You know, you coming from a humble West Indian background, it's just different, man. It's just
It is
different.
different.
You know what I'm saying?
And, you know, and at that time, you know, culturally, the food we used to eat,
Oh, yeah.
like rice and peas. Remember that?
Yes, sir. Rice and peas, jerk chicken.
And plantain. But you remember, that food wasn't even, I thought, I felt out of place eating that because at that time there was no like, rice and peas is really big now, but just think back. The early 70s, that wasn't it. That wasn't it.
The cabbage,
exactly.
the plantains,
yes,
jerk chicken, oxtail,
exactly. That
all that, man,
all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So what about in school? What was the influences in school in reference to your passion about when it came to music? Because of course we started out listening to music before we ended up creating music. I could say that for myself. I know you could say the same thing. So what about school? Like, what were you doing in school?
In high school?
It could be middle school, elementary, even high school, either or.
I remember in grade school I had a flute as a kid. I had a little flute.
Yeah, I think they taught those. I forgot what they call them. The little brown joints that you used to play.
The little toy flute.
Yeah,
I had one of those. Yeah, as a kid.
Yeah,
we never got lessons on it.
Right.
But I had it. I was playing with it, and it was it was something to do.
Right. It's a beginning phase to like getting into like, all right, I like using instruments, but now I want to get into the music. Now, what about as far as hip hop culture? Where did hip hop culture grab your attention?
Well, not until I got to high school.
Right.
And it was all over, the lunchroom.
Right. Beating on the tables,
exactly.
Freestyling, all of that.
The guys rapping, and you had some pretty good fellas, you had some good fellas arose from that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I used to go to school with special ed.
Oh, wow. Shout out to special ed, man. Brooklyn legend, man. We go back. I actually did some demos in his studio when I was working with Duck Down back in the days, but yeah, I haven't seen him in a minute. I actually caught up with him maybe a year ago at one of the summer stage concerts. You know how they do the summer stage concerts in New York? And I was there with Moni Love. Shout out to Moni Love. And Ed was there as one of the people on the bill. Red Alert was there. It was dope. It
was dope. And I went to school with Moni Love.
You know what? I think you did tell me about that years ago. This is around high school time, right?
High school time.
Brooklyn, like Wingate?
Wingate. Yeah, went to Wingate.
Yeah, there you go.
She was the first chick I ever saw with a fade.
Really? But what's so fun, interesting about Moni? Because when I got to know her, she told me her backstory coming in from London and how she wanted to prove herself in hip hop culture, and she migrated from Europe to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So yeah, like her style, like you look at them old videos, man. Her style was it was different. It was like tomboy, but still cute, like a B girl.
I mean, like it was tomboy, but she didn't come off like a tomboy.
she was still fly.
It's always execution.
Yeah, see, and like in high school days, I like everybody had a crush on her. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man, for sure. And Light went to my school too.
Oh,
MC
wow.
Light.
Wow, shout out to MC Light, man. First record I ever heard from MC Light, man, was 10% Dish.
Of course.
That record is crazy.
It was hard. That was hard. Bitch, yeah.
Man, come on, son.
Yeah, that shit was hard.
Yeah, for sure. But so from high school, what did you do in terms of like, of course, we met around the time of Digging in the Crates, like by like the early 20s, but like from high school to like
early
your career.
In age, 20s and age, yeah. But
like from high school into the 20s, what were you doing to feed your passion for music?
I don't know. It's kind of looking back. The first time I started to dig was when I heard all of the James Brown records being sampled, and I started there. I started to dig for records.
Okay, so you started really collecting records in hip hop. Well, I won't even just say hip hop. Probably all different genres of music because we listen to everything. I know that about you. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But like as far as hip hop, you started collecting more of that like in your late teens, high school, into your 20s.
Late teens.
Right.
I used to start collecting.
Can you remember the first hip hop record?
Huh?
Go ahead, finish. Can you remember the first hip hop record you bought? Do you remember?
The first hip hop record, I bought Run DMC.
The first album or the 12
No, Suck MC.
Okay.
I never forget. I bought the 12-inch.
Okay, that's what's up.
I bought the 12-inch.
I think I had that 12-inch too, and then I had the My Adidas Peter Piper 12-inch.
Oh yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like digging for records and collecting a lot of vinyl before we aspired to create the music is what kind of got us here. Like, I think listening to everything mattered, bro.
Of course. And you remember when I first started with the James Brown, right? I had enough James Brown at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can never forget, it was the Jungle Brothers that kind of opened up my mind. Because between the Jungle Brothers and De La, right?
Mm-hmm.
They opened up the door for other possibilities in hip hop.
That's true. I know for me, I feel like between collective vinyl and then I interned in a recording studio in Long Island City. You know, shout out to Dr. Butcher, you know, who was a DJ for Coogee Rap. He was the one that made me want to like really get into the industry by way of like interning in the studio and really learning the ropes, watching other people make albums, and that like opened the doors for me. Like, what do you think opened the doors for you before you got to the point of becoming a bad boy producer?
You know, what opened the doors for me, you know, I was just focused on making you know, beat tapes.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of my roommates that got me SB12. Remember?
Yeah.
I had an SB12.
Not the 1200, ladies and gentlemen, the SB12.
SB12.
Turbo. We had the Commodore disc drive.
Commodore disc drive.
A lot of people don't know about that. That's that early technology, man. You know?
Extra early.
Yeah. And then we only had 5 seconds of sample time.
It was 5 or 10.
I think it was 5 because the actual 1200 had 10, where it had the disc drive in it.
Yeah, but you remember
the 12 had like 5.
And you remember I made full beats with that 5 seconds.
That's when I used to keep up with you and hear some of your ideas that you used to share with me early on. You know what I mean? When we became friends, and I used to hear some of your beats. I'm like, whatever you was chopping up and putting that machine was genius. And the funny thing is, with the 12, you had to keep the machine either on that Commodore disc drive, but you can keep the beat in the machine even if you turn it off.
Yeah.
And when you turn it back on, you can just keep the beat running, but you'd have to either back it up or delete it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
To keep the ideas. Yeah. Because I remember I experimented with that machine too before I bought the 1200. You know, we had to work with our means back then, man. You know, we paying for everything out of pocket.
Of course.
Aspiring to getting this. That was the time when technology still had some of its limitations on hip hop production, and you just did what you could. You know what I mean, to be a part of it, like what you could afford.
But yeah, remember at that time the buy-in was crazy.
Yeah, the buy-in was crazy.
The buy-in, the meaning,
a couple of grand.
You meaning
top.
But let's be clear about the buy-in, because I guess people ain't gonna know what that is.
Right.
The buy-in is the equipment that you had to purchase
just to get started.
Yeah,
for sure.
You needed like at least 3,000, 4,000.
Yeah,
because you needed 2 pieces. You needed an SP12 or the SP1200 and a 950.
And it's funny, they had the 950, the 900, the 1000.
Yeah.
And they're all different price points. So you had to go what you could afford.
The Kai 950.
The Kai 950. Yeah. Shout out to
and
Kai.
The EMU SP1200.
Yeah, that's the tech companies behind the machines. But yeah, I feel like that and then of course your record collection, your ideas.
Yes.
And that was it. It's like your record collection, your drum machine was the dream.
But you didn't get to tell me what music that you grew up on. Yeah,
I mean, for me, similar to you, man, West Indian background. I grew up on like reggae, a little calypso, some country. You know, my father used to collect. He was pretty eclectic with the music he used to collect, and he had vinyl. He always had a system at the crib with the turntable. So it would go from Kenny Rogers to Bob Marley to Peter Tosh, Dennis Brown, and you know, it just was very eclectic. He had a little bit of jazz, but not a lot. A lot of soul, reggae, country. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And
any favorite records from that time?
Yeah. Definitely Exodus album by Marley. Grew up on that. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On album. Diana Ross, Tammy Terrell. Man, the list goes on. Like, it's funny because some of those records I actually like jacked from my father's collection. That was like my start in collecting vinyl before I started buying records.
Of course. I mean,
I think we all got a little bit from my parents, right?
I used to take from my uncle, man. We all did that.
Yeah.
But like, you know, and you know, that whole era of my life, the early, like what it was 89, 90s,
Mhm.
it was like nothing but education.
Absolutely.
For me and probably for you, because
Absolutely.
just going back, you know, digging for records.
That was the inspiration.
Huh?
That was the inspiration.
Hearing the sounds, hearing the different genres.
Absolutely. Because we were collecting by the time you and I like met, we was collecting music of all types of genres, everything. We wasn't just collecting records to catch a sample. We was just catching records that intrigued us, from the album artwork on the cover, the music, the credits, the labels that was producing records of different genres that we knew had something interesting in it, and the time frame, like late 60s into the mid to late 70s. You know what I mean? Maybe a few 80s, but not really like 80s, depending on if it was like pop or R&B. You know what I mean? But like that soul, fusion, jazz, funk, blues.
Yeah, blues.
You know, even some country from that time frame of late 60s into the mid to late 70s. Man, that was the entire inspiration for a whole generation of hip hoppers.
Of course, man.
You know, that was the musical foundation of it.
I mean, you got to remember, like, it was a funky time. They had Mickey Mouse had breaks.
Shout out to Prince Paul. Remember when he had that video?
Yeah.
Or when he was working on De La's first album, shout out to De La Soul.
Yeah.
And he pulled out that Mickey Mouse break.
Yeah.
It was like, Mickey Mouse. It was like, yo. That was crazy, bro.
I
remember that. I think it was Video Music Box or something like that. Shout out to Rap McDonald's when I saw that word.
So, yeah, man, those are the times, man. Like, and I feel like, I feel the way because, like, a lot of the upcoming producers never got to, like, go through those kind of journeys.
Right.
Just to, like, kind of open your mind up when it comes to the music.
Exactly. Before you even made a name for yourself.
Exactly.
Before you made a name for yourself, you kind of went to a school from like, quote unquote, the Digging in the Crates era.
And it wasn't like literally a school. It was just a school of, like, learning. Like, you know, we looked
learning music.
We looked on the back of the album covers.
Read the credits. Read about the studios that was recording music. The producers that was producing the records. The musicians that was playing the instruments. The record companies that was putting out the records.
Yes.
Like, that's a school.
That's a school. And then...
you might call it a school of hard knocks, but it's a school.
Of course. And from there, you know, what was so great about that, you could read the credits, then you kind of remember the names. And as you dig, you pull out the names that you remembered. And the labels, and it goes on from there.
Yeah, that was a whole technique. We won't get into that in another episode.
Yeah.
Digging for records and the science of digging for records. For real.
Exactly.
For real. But I want to fast forward a little bit with your career over there with Bad Boy. Who introduced you to Puff or just the whole Bad Boy entertainment, like, movement? Like, what opened the doors for that?
My boy Rashad Smith.
Okay. Shout out to
Tumbling
Rashad
Dice.
Smith. That's my guy. Brooklyn represent.
Yes. You know what? As we tape in here, I can remember years ago, I made my beat tape here on this block.
Oh, wow.
It was at the studio. What was the studio
1212? Was it 1212?
I believe so.
Okay.
The building, I think they knocked down the building.
Okay. Because I know there's a studio in the vicinity of where we are, where they had a studio called 1212 that was ran by Paul McCasty. Rest in peace, Paul C.
Yeah, you know Paul C. And it's funny you mentioned him. I was working with his brother.
Tim McCasty. Shout out to Tim McCasty. I haven't spoke to him in years. Hopefully he's around and well, you know?
Yeah, talking about that, I need to reach out to him.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, yeah, you know, I had a couple of ideas. I had my SP12. So what I would do was chop up my beats, my drums. I didn't have the 950 at that time.
So you had beats you were shopping to Bad Boy where you just did it on the drum machine by itself?
No.
Okay.
I went to the studio right here.
Got it.
On the Tim McCasty studio.
Took your ideas and finished them.
Ideas and finished them.
Got it. That's dope. So what was it like when you first met Puff?
I met Puff. You know, I remember I played the beats.
Mm-hmm.
He was vibing on it. He was feeling the beat. You know, that beat tape, I wish I had it.
For collectors.
Just for collectors. You know, that's the beat tape that sold them on me.
Right.
So, you know, big shout to Rashad for bringing me up there.
Yeah.
That's a move that changed my life.
We're going to definitely get Rashad Smith on the show in the future, man, because he's got a story to tell, man. He's got classics that he's done for hip hop culture before and during the Bad Boy era with you.
Of course.
So
that'd
be dope.
He was another one I came up with.
Right.
It was you, him, Latif, and you don't know him. So anyway, I came up.
I remember meeting Latif, but if there's someone else you're referring to, I'm not sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I met Puff, and you know, he liked the beat, and
rest is history. It's like, yo, I want to sign you. I want to make you a part of the Bad Boy Hitman producer team.
Of course.
Man. And how many out of the artists that you've worked with, how many of them did you actually meet? Because I know we're in an era where sometimes you produce records, you don't meet the artist, they may use your track.
It's a different time. I met everybody.
Right. So you met Total, Mace.
I met
Biggie.
I met
Faith,
Biggie.
Shine.
He was right there in the studio.
Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't no send a beat here and nah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we had to go track the beat and be in the studio with the artist.
Good. But, you know, also being that Puff runs the label and was the executive producer, the reason why I asked that question is because, you know, sometimes Puff might work on a record, have your track up, and you might not be in the session. Because, you know, sometimes that happens. It
happens it was less times than few. It wasn't that much.
Right.
But I was there present for all my sessions.
Right.
And it was very educational because that's how I learned. Like I said, in our first episode, I started out as a beat maker.
And then you graduated to be a producer.
Then I graduated to be a producer because in order to be a producer, you got to be able to open your mind up. You have to be around music, doing it constantly to be like, it opens up your imagination. So once you do a beat, you can hear a certain artist on the beat and you could complete it mentally. Right,
exactly. And also just know how to operate in a recording studio atmosphere with people in the room and know how to, you know, govern the room to an extent in terms of the execution of that record, not just the beat, but arranging vocals, instructing the engineer what you want in terms of like the mix arrangements and all of that.
Exactly.
You know, like songwriting, if you need to bring a writer in, whatever, you know, that's producing.
And you know, mostly all the records that I did, I was right there sitting down on the mix.
There you go. That's what's up.
That's very important. I think today's producers cannot just say they're producers and not sit down on the mix.
That's true.
You got to sit down on the mix. You got to finish what you started. Don't leave it in the hands of no one else.
That's true. And I could say I've worked with some of the best engineers. I'm sure you've worked with some of the best engineers. And I may not be technology-wise educated on a mixing board, but I know what I want in terms of sound, EQ, edits, drops, you know, effects, all of that. You know, that's part of mixing. And in some cases, some engineers are following your lead. They want you to dictate what you want out of the song mix and to actually execute those parts of the mix process.
But the whole thing that saved me a lot, right? I came with my tracks. My tracks is already mixed to the way I liked it.
Sound-wise.
Everything, the effects, the reverbs, the drums, levels, the sittings, everything was there.
Right.
So
that's actually pretty dope.
Huh?
That's actually pretty dope.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about a time frame when it was 2-inch reels, analog, not even the digital era.
Yeah.
And you already had your sound the way you wanted it instrumentally. So when you printed it to 2-inch reel back then, it was there the way you wanted it.
Yeah, but you know, because the way you have to do it like that because you want to keep the vibe that when you first started the beat.
Right.
Because, you know, as you do beats, you know, like you have it up on a board, you can just take the kick and just pull it down like that.
Right.
That changes the whole vibe of the record.
It sure does. A lot of people don't understand there's the littlest nuances that can affect how you consume music.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? And if you don't got no other fellow creatives that have an imagination of what you're trying to do, if the engineer don't understand what you're trying to do, the way that record's going to sound, is going to affect that. You know what I mean?
And I think in today's technology, I believe they have AI that can do that, right?
Man.
But I think that's going to be very difficult because I know how difficult it is just to, just you touch the board slightly. If the whole record is like the vibe is finished. So
right.
I don't see how a computer could replicate that.
Yeah.
But to its defense, the way they churning out the music today is very easy and predictable for AI that can repeat that.
Yeah,
but
like a repetitiveness.
The repetitive, the way the clap and the hi-hat sit. I mean, all of that is easy. It's like cookie cutter. But I come from at my time, I like to make all my tracks sound different.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to my here's the biggest thing you got to understand. Each song had its own different set of sounds.
That's true. I could attest to that myself. Like I to this day, I like to operate like a chameleon, man. I don't like to do the same thing twice. Like even when when people come to me to produce certain records and they want something I did already, I don't want to duplicate that. I've even turned down people asking me to recreate certain records I produced, and I'm like, nope. I'd rather somebody else do it.
True, but I wanted to drive that down because I think a lot of producers today need to learn how to make sounds, their own sounds, because some people be doing the same sounding records and wondering why they're not selling beats.
And clearly it's because of, these beat packs on the internet, these sound libraries that get used over and over by anybody that is aspiring to create music is just getting sounds from digital software and just, regurgitating what's already there as opposed to trying to create their own sounds. What I liked about when we started in this business, we literally made our own sounds with the equipment we started.
Oh,
with.
Man.
I'm talking about kicks and snares, drums, loops, everything,
Man, and that was such an education right there.
Absolutely.
And, to this day, I have a lot of sounds still.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to sit down there and take time to make some more.
Right. And let me ask you a question now, just understanding that, right? Tell me how many records you hear today when somebody actually uses a sound outside of the predictable sounds of these technology-based sound libraries. You almost pick it out right away because we did so much.
Yes.
That when we hear drum beat that we recognize or a kick and snare we recognize, we could pick it apart. To this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot of people could do that.
Of course.
You got to know music.
Yeah, you got to know. You had to be around and, you had to know, it's so much, man. It's so much.
Yeah. I would say in reference to that, specifically what I'm talking about is breakbeat sounds.
Oh, yeah.
The classic breakbeat sounds, whether it's Impeach the President, Substitution, records like that, where it has very unique sounded recordings, where if you took those drum sounds, whether it was a kick or a snare, you would recognize it from one recording to the next automatically.
But in that defense, everybody didn't use it the same. So it wouldn't sound the same all the time.
I think it depends on how it's EQ'd, how it's chopped and cut up, in the programming, what we call truncation.
Yes.
Truncation, for the definition for the average person who don't know, is when you take drum sounds and you splice and chop them in a certain way where you get that frequency to make a drum beat, Because
the perfect example of that?
Mm-hmm.
When Public Enemy did Public Enemy #1.
Oh, yeah. And they used synthetic substitution.
Exactly. It took me years. Yeah. It took me years to figure out what that was. Yeah. And then I said, "Oh yeah,
because the sub kick on that beat is just a little different than the break beat." Yeah,
and because that was the thing. Because you could take the sounds and manipulate it a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's layering too. Layering your kicks and snares and trying to create your own sound. That's the era, man. That's all I gotta say.
Yes,
that's the era. You know what I'm saying? Going back to for me. From the days of the Beatminerz producing Black Moon, Smith & Wesson, Helter Skelter, every single record I used different sounds. Every single record never had the same kicks and snares. Never had the same musical arrangements. Never used a loop or a sample more than once and try to arrange it a different way. But that was me challenging myself.
True. But you know what? Some producers made that work.
Of course.
But, I got to give it to Marley. Like what he did was with LL's album.
Yeah. I love the cohesiveness of Mama Said Nothing. Arguably, in my opinion, LL's best album. But that's another conversation.
That's another conversation. But, Marley Marl, man.
Yeah.
One of the greatest ever. Shout out to Marley Marl. One of the greatest ever did it.
Got to give him a round of applause. And of course, giving him the flowers for the invention of drum beat sampling and programming. For sure. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I feel like we're blessed to be here. Now we doing HittMobb, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is our stage to be able to give flowers to other producers like ourselves. This is the opportunity for us to share our creative endeavors, past and present, and share our history. So like, I'm just looking forward. I'm excited. Like this episode 2, I'm just mad excited, bro.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying?
We got a lot of stories, a lot of experiences to share.
Yeah, for sure. And we just getting warmed up, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? But we gonna get up out of here. I'm here stumbling my words, but pay me no mind. Yo, by the way, if you want to check out the HittMobb merch, shout out to Prestige for putting this together, the HittMobb merch. Make sure you hit up hitmobb.com. You know what I'm saying? And we can catch us. Go ahead. You want to spell it?
HittMobb.com.
MOBB.
Yes, .com. So, yeah.
There you go.
You know
what I'm saying?
All right.
Appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. God bless you. Good night. Peace.